A couple weeks ago, I talked about the lows of animation last year, but forget about those. It's time to celebrate the highs, and there were many in 2017. There were films that were touching, that innovated, and which made me laugh and gave me characters worth caring about. Some were sequels, others were adaptations, and even an original film snuck in there. Needless to say, this was another year that showed how much very good to great work is being done in animation, starting with the Lego Ninjago movie. While this may be the weakest of the LEGO movies released thus far, it still has a lot to appreciate. I really like the unusual dynamic between Lloyd the Ninja and his evil father, Lord Garmadon. While there's definitely a Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader influence there, I still found myself invested in their story, and the filmmakers created humorous chemistry and character development between the two. Like the other LEGO movies, multiple gags and background details fly across the screen, and most of them do hit. One of the most clever, disappointingly spoiled by the trailers, was the use of a cat. These LEGO movies continue to impress on a visual level, and there's something about these minifigs with their restrictive knees and arms performing martial arts that is highly amusing. While I do wish we got to know the other ninjas, and I felt the live-action bookends weren't really necessary, the LEGO Ninjago movie continues the franchise's ability of highlighting what makes the toys so lasting. The Nutjob 2, Nutty by Nature. Here we have a sequel that makes a genuine effort to listen to the criticisms of the first movie. A lot of folks did not like the first Nutjob because they felt the lead squirrel Surly was too unlikable. So the filmmakers here made an effort to make him a more heroic figure who does things to benefit others rather than himself. The amount of scatological jokes are lessened and the verbal humor actually approaches a certain amount of wittiness. The action scenes are particularly inventive and the animation seems to be given an upgrade from the previous film. There are some shots that are really quite beautiful. I also like the addition of a band of kung fu mice, with the filmmakers coming up with some clever uses for them. Even the villain, despite being the evil developer common in family films, is used to insert some solid political commentary. The film does take an odd detour in the second act, as we have an entire section devoted to saving the pug, which leads to an unnecessary flashback. Otherwise, the Nutjob 2 did work as a very funny slapstick adventure and an improved sequel. Cars 3. Going back to the roots of the first Cars, and oddly enough completely ignoring the events of Cars 2, this closed the trilogy and Lightning McQueen's story nicely. I actually like the emphasis on Lightning McQueen's NASCAR career, and Brian Fee does an exceptional job directing the racing scenes. The film ultimately comes about not just seeing the potential in the next generation, but also paying attention when others are being held back by society's imposed limitations. The whole film is rather poignant and told of a genuine love for these characters. You could talk about how this universe works, but after 3 films I've learned to go with the flow of it all. Cars 3 takes some surprising turns that I admired, and so it's a film that is not afraid of slowing down and treating the audience to a different pace than they might be accustomed to. I know a lot of people tend to look down at the Cars franchise and view them as lesser films in the Pixar catalog, but I've always had an admiration for them, and that continued with Cars 3. Rock Dog. This Chinese-American co-production was one that went seriously under the radar, to the point it did not even receive a theatrical release in Canada. And that's a shame, as I found this to be a very sweet story of a dog with a dream. Yes, we've seen animated films before about animals with a dream, and there are certainly elements in Rock Dog that feel a tad derivative of the likes of Kung Fu Panda and Cats Don't Dance. However, it won me over because it has heart. Bodhi is a character I found myself really gravitating towards, and I definitely rooted for him on this journey as he sought to become a musician. Pairing him up with the cynical Angus Scattergood allowed for some humorous interplay, but also some solid character development. Director Ash Brennan makes the most of his budget, and the physical comedy animation is excellent, producing a fair number of laughs. There are other little touches I appreciated here too, including an opening prologue in 2D animation, and the 2 fellow musical animals Bodhi meets. Dharma the Fox and Gurma the Goat could have easily been written as snide and unimpressed by Bodhi, but I liked how they are shown to be supportive of him and genuinely see him as a friend. It's elements like those that allow me to be swept up in this charming little adventure. The Breadwinner. It's not often that the smaller animated films reach my neck of the woods, so it was nice to see this get a decent if minor sized push. This movie doesn't hold back in showing the harshness of living in Afghanistan, and there's a rooting interest in Pawana as she seeks to help her family. There's a frequent uncertainty as she risks her life in trying to find her father, and there's genuine empathy. I also really like the scenes of her at home, as we see a household deal with the usual issues, like sibling rivalry and making dinner. The animation style has the proper look to it, and the simplicity serves as an asset in telling the story. Admittedly, I was so invested in Puana's story that I felt the fable she told on occasion interrupted the flow. It's not a deal breaker, and I understand why those portions are there, but I just felt they should have been implemented better. Nonetheless, this is another very good effort from Cartoon Saloon and the sort of animated film we're not accustomed to seeing. Captain Underpants. A delightful adaptation of Dave Pilkey's books, David Soren and the artists at DreamWorks Animation and Micro's Image captured the silliness of the source material and fulfilled a wish I've long had since I was 8 years old. The humor manages to be rather smart and clever, a film surrounding characters called Captain Underpants and Professor Poopy Pants. The friendship between George and Harold is genuine, and we really see the bond between the two. But the movie even manages to nicely dig into Principal Crupp's personality and explore that without ruining the essence of the character. There's also a cloudy with chance of meatballs feel with how the film transfers Pilkey's illustrations to animation, and we see other styles implemented through the course of the movie. I also appreciate the theme about the importance of creativity in young minds. Capping off with a hilarious Weird Al song, Captain Underpants is an overall goofy, fun time. Coco. A touching tribute to Mexican culture, the Pixar team did a really nice job of bringing us to this other world, and my favorite parts of Coco come from seeing the depiction of the land of the dead. The imagination on display is evident in every frame, and it's clear how much research went into this production. Miguel's motivation is understandable, and the film manages to have him learn some necessary hard truths in a strong way. The use of music is also excellently implemented, especially Remember Me, which definitely stands as my favorite movie song of the year. The way Lee Unkrich and his team cleverly weave that into the storyline is quite effective. While Coco does have its predictable beats and a climax that appears to go on for quite a while, it makes its final point quite clear. It's understandable why many people are having an emotional response to this film, and deservedly so. While Coco might not rank among my favorite Pixar films, I still found a ton to appreciate, and it represents another worthy addition to the ever-expanding catalog of impressive titles. Smurfs, The Lost Village. I've long held an affection for the Smurfs, but it has not been easily translating Peo's Little Blue Creatures 3 Apples High to the screen. It took director Kelly Asbury and the talented team at Sony Pictures Animation to pull off the best screen take on these characters. From a visual standpoint, the film is a triumph, pulling the audience into this incredible world with all sorts of imaginative creatures and plant life. This is a genuine adventure as the Smurfs go on a journey, and you can tell how much fun the designers and artists had putting these set pieces together. However, what truly makes The Lost Village special is how it expands on the Smurfs, specifically Smurfette. We see Smurfs who get frustrated and have the mischievous and occasionally bitter side, as was often seen in the original comics. With Smurfette, the film truly seeks to explore her place in the village beyond just being the girl Smurf. The addition of the new village further highlights this theme. This ultimately becomes Smurfette's story as the film tackles her anxieties over her place in Smurf's village in a heart-tugging way. I know it sounds crazy to say this about a Smurfs movie, but I did get a little emotional watching this at one point. While I could have done with less pop songs on the soundtrack, this was a pleasing adaptation that would make Peo proud. Ferdinand. This is the kind of movie I feel we need more of. Based on the classic Moon Relief book, director Carlos Sedaya and his team at Blue Sky Studios managed to give this film just as big a heart as its titular protagonist. There's a warmth that radiates from Ferdinand. Part of the joy of Ferdinand comes from not only this bull's optimism and unwillingness to participate in violence, but how everyone else helps contribute. I especially enjoyed 3 hedgehogs, who serve as the necessary tiny comic relief who can work alongside this giant bull. There are also a lot of great interactions with a Carmen goat, voiced by Kate McKinnon, and a Highland cattle. The way Ferdinand opens up their world and allows them to see beyond the farm is done in a touching manner. There's a laid-back quality to this movie I really appreciated. From the beginning, when we see Ferdinand and his Ona Nina interacting in a montage, that immediately sets the tone for the sweet film we'll feast our eyes on. However, what truly makes Ferdinand special is how it doesn't shy away from the book's anti-bullfighting message. It managed to tackle the subject in a way that clearly highlights the mistreatment bulls face. 2 scenes in particular are beautifully directed and how they convey what bullfighting truly entails. It'll definitely be interesting to see how it's received in Spain. Either way, I think Ferdinand is a necessary film to today's times, featuring one of the most lovable leads to hit our screens last year. And my favorite animated movie of 2017 is the Lego Batman movie. While the Lego movie worked as a loving tribute to the classic Danish toy, this film uses this unique brand of storytelling to explore the entire Batman mythology. Director Chris McKay and his band of screenwriters have a clear admiration and knowledge for the Caped Crusader, even as they try to show his more vulnerable side. This is the most I've seen a piece of Batman-related media explore the relationship between the Dark Knight and Robin the Boy Wonder in such a profound way. The movie explores his continuing isolation, with Robin serving as an excellent catalyst for Batman to explore new avenues in his role as Gotham's protector. The jokes fly every second, with a large chunk of them succeeding. There are so many, the Lego Batman movie becomes highly rewarding on repeat viewings. However, McKay also treats it as a full-fledged action film, with some brilliantly directed sequences. And then, once we think we know the direction it's going, the movie goes flat-out bonkers in the third act, fully embracing the fact that, oh yeah, this is a Lego movie. When following up the previous Lego movie, it managed to expand that universe, while also working on its own terms, and is the most I laughed watching a film last year. So overall, I thought this was a pretty solid year for animated features, and I look forward to what next year will bring. 2018 should prove to be extra special as we encounter claymation cavemen, an island of Japanese dogs, a holiday ceiling grump, a friendly yeti, the return of some arcade denizens and vacationing monsters, and the continuing superheroics of The Incredibles, the Teen Titans, and Spider-Man. See you next time.